All right. Again, finishing up from the game on Saturday. Proud of the way our guys got out of the blocks. Had a great opening drive of 13 plays. Hadn't even had a penalty or two, and we overcame it. Very poised in that regard. Need to stop those self-inflicted wounds. But for the most part on penalties, I thought we were pretty good on the day. Did a better job there. Defensively, really liked the start we had, created turnovers again, created field position, and the offense took that change of momentum and stuck them in the end zone and didn't waste the turnovers. Very proud of that. So I thought we were very good in the red zone on offense. Again, 2 weeks in a row, and then very good on third down, which is getting a lot of extra plays and get us at bats and getting the defense off the field. And our defense is doing a really good job on third down and getting off the field. And so from that standpoint, very pleased. Thought we tackled well. Thought we kept leverage on the ball on defense, and we got those young guys in there, and you saw some of those guys, but they got a chance to be really good players, and we got to develop them. Kyle Myers and Becker and Levante Taylor and two linebackers, Emmett Rice and Jackson and Burns up front. And I hope I'm not missing somebody, but I mean, even Stephen Calvin Bruton and A.J. Westbrook keep getting work. Those guys are going to be really good players, and we like all those guys. And the young down guys, getting Arthur Williams in there, get some of those guys. So proud of their offense to get some of those young receivers some at-bats, get some of those young linemen, Landon Dickerson getting a start, Baselli coming in doing a real nice job, the other guys doing a nice job. Patrick ran well. I was very pleased with Amir Rasul and how he ran. Yeah, Ryan Green and Vickers had a couple really nice blocks and a couple nice plays on the, so we'll keep building our depth. The young tight ends, Kerr did a nice job. And just keep getting better and better, and we got a long ways to go. But very pleased in kicking game. We were talking about return game and worked on it very hard in the offseason. Got a punt return for a touchdown, doing a much better job at the line of scrimmage of giving the returner space. And then we got the lane set up. Bobo did a nice job of hitting it, staying in it, finishing the play. Our kickers are kicking the ball extremely well. We're hitting our field goals and PATs. Our kickoffs are right where we want. We're kicking them out, and then we're hanging them and covering, doing both. Doing a nice job there. Got to get a little more hang, but and we're covering very well, winning field position battles, punting the ball well, and then our coverage teams are doing a nice job. Got a lot of guys that we can mix and match in there. So very pleased. I mean, we're a long way from off. We have a huge development part of our team that we still have to get to where we got to get to so we can feel comfortable rotating guys in and out and keep them fresh throughout the season. Those young guys are coming along very nicely. Proud of that. We've got to learn to keep practicing. Last week we practiced okay. Didn't practice as well as we really wanted to, and we got to learn that demeanor and so we can play even better and create great habits on the practice field. And one thing I missed about last week, it was more of a almost endurance time just to kind of have to get them ready for what they were going to see instead of didn't have enough time to really work like a normal week and get better. I hated losing that week like that, but that's the way it is. So, we've got to get better this week in practice. Got a great team coming up in Louisville. They're very dynamic on both sides of the ball, playmakers, kicking game. I mean, extremely well coached. I mean, you go from A to Z. They're as good as there is around. So they do a great job. So we got to get better, get ready for the challenge, and get ready to roll. Questions? Derwin has a torn cartilage in his knee. Did not have any ACL, any structural damage whatsoever. He has some cartilage damage, which we'll go in and see, and his timeout will depend on how it's repaired. And it's not necessarily if it's torn or something, we have to jag it and cut it. It's actually a less time back. If they sew it, it'll be or tack it down or whatever they say to do. It could be more time. Just depend. We'll do whatever's best for him. It was just all was a piece of cartilage got flipped. And there was no structure or knee damage in any way, shape, or form. Don't know how long. That's all going to depend on surgery and everything on that. Matter of fact, he's over there right now.
He's getting a surgery today.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be a huge blessing after waiting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it just for his sake, because it was such a weird, there was nothing to play. It wasn't guys diving in your legs or falling into your legs. He makes a great hit, knocks the guy out of bounds, and then when he just came down, it just, that just popped the power and some, when the guys are that strong. But for him, I was very happy. There was no structural damage or anything in that regard. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I just thought maybe he had a cramp or something because we couldn't tell during the game. And then they grabbed me afterwards and said they weren't sure. But we went and did the MRI that night. We went and saw and made sure, and it was great. And hopefully we'll get that worked out, and he'll be ready to go in some time.
As far as just kind of the rotation guy you have as defensive back, that you have a plan on losing guys, but what's it like to know that with your system, guys are interchangeable?
That's what we planned for. That's why we practice like we practice. That's and that's how we positions, whether backs or fullbacks, H-backs. I remember when we had Chris Thompson down at Miami. No one heard Devontae Freeman. He gets hurt, and all of a sudden he comes in, but he had played enough. We practiced. We had those young guys ready to play. And his first action, remember, he had like 2 or 3 touchdowns that night, and we were able to upset and play a great game against Miami. It's happened. And the way we practice and the way we structure our team, offense and defense, we kind of, it's not planned for this, but you kind of put a safeguard around to make sure that all your bases are covered where you got to go. And we got some great young players, I think, will be able to step up and play.
And we know something like those young players. Is it
Well, Westbrook, Calvin Bruton, but then you got Kyle Myers, you got Levante Taylor. I mean, when you're talking about nickel dime situation, you're talking about Becker, all those guys. Have you moved Marcus Lewis? What do you do with Marquez White? What do you do with Trey Marshall? Is he a nickel? Is he a safety? And hopefully get Nate Andrews back. We're planning on getting him back this week, getting him back on the field in different looks. So you got a lot of variations there. And then even the way how you play Matthew Thomas, whether he's a Mike, whether he's a Will, whether he's a rush guy. There's a lot of variations of guys like Pugh and those guys that can do different things in certain packages that can really be very beneficial to us. And they're athletic guys that can run in space and play in space, and that's the thing we're happy about.
Just to clarify, you said you think you'll have Nate back this week?
That's what we're thinking, yes, as of right now. If practice goes well, he'll be back in practice today.
There's not a scenario where Durham would play this week.
No.
Is there a timetable with him? 6 weeks or something like that?
What did I just say? I love you, but God dang, I don't know. I don't know till they do the surgery and see how they're going to how it's repaired. I have no idea. It could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, and probably 8 weeks, 10. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Coach, obviously everybody knows about his talent and what do you miss with his leadership, though?
I think the presence. I mean, he has tremendous presence on the field, but I think also the way he is with his presence, that he won't allow that to be a factor either, because I think he'll be such a big part of those guys on the side of generating and motivating them and getting them to step up to the next level. I think on the field they'll miss him with his physical abilities and his leadership, but I think his presence on the sideline and his off the field things, the way he'll be with them, he'll have those guys mentally ready to play too. He's one of the few guys I've been around, the Jameis worlds and stuff like that. It has such a unique effect on players in such a positive way. I mean, like Jameis, even we played when we had to play without Jameis. I mean, and Sean played wonderfully. He played a great game, big game against Clemson here. And I think Sean did great, but Jameis had presence on the sideline for his team too. And I think Derwin's one of those guys that has an influence that way, and those guys will want to, I think, play well and do well for him. Now, we got to go out there and play. That doesn't make that happen. We'd much rather have him on the field. I mean, he's as good a defensive player as there is in this country, but, that's just the way it is.
Coach, what do you take away from last year? A game against Jackson that you guys were able to contain him in the pocket. What do you take away from a game like that?
Well, I mean, structurally, what he does, and they're still doing very similar things. They'll have adjustments and do things better. But, but he's progressed so much more as a player, in my opinion, with the poise and leadership and just his passing skills and his reading. But, we've played against him, so we know what he's like, but that doesn't make it any easier. That guy's dynamic, man, in all phases of the world and how he plays. So we're going to have our hands full. We got to keep contained, but we got to pressure, and, we got to play Florida State football. We got to tackle in space, but then also, you slip up about that, and all of a sudden they're banging you up inside with inside runs and powers and stuff. So, I mean, we got to play a complete football game and be very disciplined. Have great eye control in this game.
Everybody talks about Lamar, understandably so, but what is it about that offense that people might overlook, or even that defense that people might overlook? Because it's more than just him.
Oh, they got good players. I mean, just like up there the other day, a couple years ago in 2014, I went, man, how'd you go up to Louisville? They had 10 guys drafted. We had 11, they had 10. Last year, look at the high picks they got. I mean, they got guys, the receivers and the players they've had through. They got really good players. I mean, Josh Harvey Clemens and Wiggins and Fields and the big nose guard, the junior college guys, Hearns, who's a defensive end from right here in town in Lincoln, Kelsey at linebacker, the corners, the receivers, Quick, and the line. They got good line. Tight end can run and catch. The back's a good player. All 2 or 3 of the receivers, Staples, those guys are big guys. The 18, the tight end, the athletic. I mean, they got really good players and they're coached well. I mean, that team, you look at the history of the players that have come out of there, especially recently, I mean, they're as good as anybody.
Did you like what you saw from DeAndre on tape, even on a short week?
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, he had a few mistakes here and there that we'll continue to clean up, and decisions and things like that. But, I mean, I love the way he's progressing, very much so.
What kind of players are A.J. Westbrook and Calvin Bruton, and how have you seen them develop at this point?
I'm going to tell you what, very cerebral guys, very smart, learn very well, play in space well, tackle, understand the game. Understand the game a lot. And that's why there's a lot of versatility in places you can put them at.
Did you learn anything from the depth of your running back situation?
Yeah, we got some good backs. I mean, I love the way Jaquez run. You saw Amir come in and do good, but Ryan Green and Patrick didn't have as many chances on the run a couple times, but I'm pleased with their progress, the way they're catching the ball, running the ball. Vickers had some really nice blocks, had a couple short yardage runs in there, was nice. Those guys they're progressing very nicely.
You talk about the depth and having all that. In the past, you talk so much about practice and habits. You see these younger guys are starting to get those good practice
Well, we got to get there. We're not there as a team yet. We still, even if the varsity guys, I say varsity, the experienced guys, I still think the practice habits about how you really got to every play. I mean, the focus, the concentration, and you got to have it. And you got to play your way into it. You got to develop that identity, and you got to grind. There's no easy way to get ready for games. I haven't found it in 29 years. Like I say, Monday through Thursday, I'm miserable. I mean, I got to watch a film. I got to figure it out. I got to look at what we got. I got to look at what in 29 years, you'd think you'd figure it out. But you can't. You got to grind at it. And they got to learn that if I'm going to play well on Saturday, I got to grind through the week. And I got to practice well. And I got to have attention to detail on how I prepare and play and line up and my eye control. I mean, they got to create those habits, and there's no easy way to do it. And we're continually getting there.
Obviously, we all see the coverage bus when they complete the pass. Are there more of those? Or how are you guys?
No. You just notice a couple. I mean, for the most part, really good. But that's just in the back end. That's the thing. When you mess up in the back end, it's usually very obvious. There's a lot of mess up sometimes underneath with things that you have no clue about. Linebackers and other people do, and I know that sounds crazy, but that's just the way it is. And but no, I mean that was just one miscommunication, and that happens. Any team I've ever been on. I mean, very few times. But now, hopefully, you just keep winding those down and closing them down because mistakes back there cost you. And you always got to err, in my opinion, on taking something deep and not making that call. But and we actually only have one in the whole game. Well, two. Had two.
Is it the fact that Louisville had two pretty easy games to start off with? Is that concern you about what they maybe haven't used yet?
No, I mean they're going to run what they run. You got to. It's like us. I mean, you have certain plays and things, but your basis of what you do and how you do it. Everybody's going to have tricks hidden and trick plays and things like that. I mean, that's part of it, and that's why I say great eye discipline and teach conceptually. But at the same time, I mean, people say you hide all those things, but then you don't ever rep them. So how do you know they're going to rep live? I mean, there's a double-edged sword to that. Say, well, you hide all that stuff and don't rep it, or would you rather have it repped and polished and know you can execute it when you have to execute it? I mean, but I'm sure, Bobby's always got tricks. I mean, they always do things, and they'll have a great plan. There's no doubt.
About who's been your best offensive line so far for 2 games?
Tell you what, Eberle's graded out the highest both games, and what he's done. Rod's played solidly, and we're getting better in time. I was pleased with Landon. Landon played better. Ricky got a little better this game and what he was doing. Derek Kelly had a solid game. Simons and what he's doing, getting a hat to a hat. Those guys they're getting better. It's going to be working because we're just mixing and matching so many guys.
You expect to have Ari and Bell?
I don't know that. I really don't. We'll have to wait and see from the doctors. I have no idea. We're planning as if we don't, and if we do, we do.
When you said after the Charleston Southern game, the protection wasn't great, or at least he took some sacks on some deep throws that you didn't hope for.
Well, now we got protection twice. Two times was a missed protection on a lineman that he had nothing he could do. There was one rollout when he come outside. I wish the receiver didn't run a route. We looked at the post, it wasn't there, went to the corner. He kept it high and should have broke it off. And when he should just go ahead and throw it away instead of taking a sack. The other time we had two protection issues on deep balls. We had one we got a hold on, which was kind of picky, which was there, and the other one we just had a bust on the side. We didn't slide to the side. The other one, and on that one, the other one we had to hold. It's the one he threw to Izzo and he dropped it. Remember, he hit him on the deep ball down the sideline, made a really nice throw. It was just one decision when he rolled out. He went 1-2, and the guy froze him because he thought he was going to break off, and he didn't just throw it away quick enough. Which is part of, like I always say with young quarterbacks, it's not them doing their job. It's when always somebody around them doesn't do what they're expected to and how they react to that. For the most part, he's been great on that. That was just one time they got him.
You've already mentioned a bunch of young guys. Is it important for them to take advantage of those opportunities when they get a chance?
Oh, they better, because we got to get them developed. I mean, not just for their own sake, for our team's sake. We got to feel comfortable putting them in the game and how they practice, because it's, like I say, the bangs, the bruises, the depth, all the reps. You got to get these young guys ready as quick as you can. So I think we played 16 freshmen in that game last week, 16 or 17 true freshmen, something like that. And we got to get those guys out there as much as we can.
Take a question from Matt Baker here. Matt?
Hey, Jimbo. I wanted to ask about Josh Sweat. Obviously, he played last year, but was still kind of getting back into things. Now that he's got a couple of games under his belt this year, what kind of progress have you seen from him?
Solid. He's doing a nice job. Josh is a really good player, going to be a really, really, really good player. Just keeps getting better every week, can play the run, pass. He's having a solid year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about Dalvin, who broke a nice run there.
course.
Really ran well all night. When you go back and watch the film, I was very pleased. One run he didn't finish like I want him to finish, but other than that, I thought you go back and watch his runs, he ran well, ran with his eyes very well, made really good cuts, wasn't double cut. In other words, was seeing it one cut and made it. The 2 bounce runs were good. Inside run was good. The last run was phenomenal. The screen, he took his eyes off a guy and got popped right there. But other than that, I think he's getting better and better each week, getting and playing himself really back into shape. And like I say, not shape, but just where he's playing really well. I mean, we griped last week and everybody thought he was bad. He had 192 yards of offense. He had a 100-yard receiving game and 91 yards rushing against a pretty good team. So, he'd get back. I mean, everybody expects him to have 200 yards every game. That's just. I mean, and I say this, everybody expects Deshaun Watson to go throw for 500 every game. You don't just walk back out there and just turn it on. People plan for you, do things, and you got to play each year is different. And just because your numbers aren't the same doesn't mean you're not playing as well. It just maybe other things are featured or what's going on. But we're pleased the way he's playing. And again, he's still really getting into it, really good. I like his progress where he's at right now.
How happy been having him with that feedback? Yeah, the numbers aren't where he wants, but you're saying, hey, you're doing this way.
Well, the other thing, he still had 192 yards, and he still averaged, 7.5 yards a carry last week. He had 11 for 80-some, 83. I mean, that's still where he was last year, 7.5 yards a carry. And he had a first 100-yard receiving game. I mean, he's just evolving and developing as a player in different ways. And sometimes you guys are seeing him differently now than maybe you've seen him in the past. But he can still do those old things, too.
Do you like how he's carrying that extra weight?
Oh, yeah, his speeds and everything been extremely good. I mean, he still is faster than he has been.
Is that something that he has to get used to, though, putting on that weight?
Yeah, he had it all summer. He ran with it all summer. Ran with it all fall. I mean, he's been great with it. And it's, like I say, his number, speed. And you're only talking about 4 or 5 pounds. It's not like you're talking 15 pounds. I mean, he played last year at about 206 to 208. This year he stays anywhere from 211 to 213, 214. 5, 6, 7 pounds. I mean, it's good weight.
Yeah, but what's for Pugh? Is it just being healthy, or or just being his 3rd year? It seems like
both. I mean, just growing up, maturing, and playing with a lot more consistency, urgency. And that's part of it. And he's right where you should be. I mean, again, I keep saying it all the time, man. A lot of your great players you ever had in this program in the history never played to their 3rd years when they were mature enough to play. And they usually didn't play great, a lot of them, until their 4th years. I mean, it's just maturity, depth, feeling comfortable with what we're doing on defense, and he's healthy again. That foot's good and playing good.
But having him, what does that?
Oh, I mean, you can drop him, you can rush him, create pack. You can have him and Sweat, or him sweating Burns and him sweating DeMarcus Walker. I mean, inside, outside. I mean, different things you can do with him. It's really good.
But how good is it for the ACC to have a top 10 matchup that isn't Florida State Clemson?
I think it's great. Again, I've said this all along. Everybody keeps talking about our conference is really good, guys. I mean, a couple years ago when we had the 11, Louisville had they talking about we had the most players of any division drafted in college football. With us, Clown, all those guys, that whole side. I mean, it wasn't those other legs. And it is great football in the ACC, and I'm now glad that people are starting to see it.
And how big a benefit is it that Louisville joined this?
Oh, I think it's critical. I mean, it keeps adding to your conference. It adds to the, what am I looking for? It adds to the credibility that you're saying. You keep saying it, and I know it when you've been playing it, but I mean, it's there. It's there.
Going back to kind of what we said about the ranked games, for your team to get Ole Miss to start off the weekend out in Louisville, what's it like for them to kind of get this environment where they're used to these games early on? Yeah, that's how it's going to be throughout the whole.
It is, and it's going to be that way the whole year. You're everybody's Super Bowl, and you're ranked up there high. That's what you do at Florida State. You get used to going to those environments, and hopefully it's like going to work every day. That's what it is, and you respect it and you do it, but you put your work in. You don't get caught up in the clutter and the hype. You concentrate on what you do, how you prepare and how you play, and learn to have a great process of getting ready. And that's what we got to do. We got to have the process of getting ready, great practice habits. We're still trying to develop that to the extent we want, and each team has to go through that. There's still no team has it magically like that. You got to still grind. That's part of grinding it out, and hopefully we'll get there. We better get there quick with the schedule we got.
Jimbo, a noon game, they just announced USF's also going to be a noon game. All these noon games in September, I mean, does that change from a conditioning perspective?
You got to be careful sometimes. Heat, humidity, different things, how you prepare during the week, and also how much on a Thursday, because you don't have those 6 or 8 hours of recovery from a night game. So it may change a little bit of preparation, but now we'll use the numbers to judge where the guys are and what we see them as and where their loads are and on the recovery times. But we'll be able to, it does a little bit at times, it does. But also, you catch it on the back end, so some of your recovery going into Monday is a little better. because you're not playing as late. You pick up those 6 or 8 hours, so it can work both ways.
Logan Tyler has been off to a great start, but about kickoffs and punts, what have you seen out of him?
Same thing. Those 2 young kickers I'm extremely pleased with. I mean, he's hitting his kickoffs where we want him, getting hang time, kicking them out when we're kicking them out. His punts are going really well, and just very proud of the way he's doing it.
You've got some great kickers here. Is his leg as strong as you coach?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, it's one of the strongest ones. We got one that's crazy, it's crazy strong, and the other one's crazy accurate, so I'm happy.
Could Logan kick it out of the end zone every time?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So sometimes you're telling them that.
Sometimes we'll try to hang, and I mean, you saw the Patriots do it last night. Whenever they moved it to the 25, they act like that was a revelation. We've been doing that for a couple years. I mean, it is, because that's an extra 5 yards, and if you got guys that can cover and get down in there, man, and shorten that up, it helps your team. But you know, that's here and there, depending on how explosive that guy is, or where your coverage teams are, or you know what you want to do. You know, so we keeping that versatility is really good.
One more.
How, for a guy like Jared Jackson, I mean, it's your kickoff coverage unit is studs. I mean, it's all. For a guy like that, a walk-on receiver to throw a spot on there and then play the way he has.
You know, again, you look at like Javion Elliott was. That's how he earned his role. And what I'm saying is, the guys that make it that far for 3 or 4 years as walk-ons generally, they either figure it out real quick that they got to play at a higher level and really adapt to what's going on, or they kind of just fade away and say, I don't really want to be a part of it. Jared's a guy who said, no, I want to continually fight and play at this level, and kept raising his game, conditioning, training, getting bigger, getting stronger, and just got used to the guys around him and his surroundings. Said, I want to be one of those guys, and he's developed himself in now so he can be a very good contributor.
We good?
That it? Thank y'all. Who tweeted it first? Who was the quickest? Who had the first one out? I'm going to start judging. We'll start giving you a prize. We'll give you an ice cream cone or something. Who gets it out the quickest? Huh?